what do our end users actually want? Are we making it better? Are we building a platform that will stand up? What is that? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? How does it connect to our vision? And then it's ultimately like, are we delivering it?
I'm so glad to have you here, all the way from Uber, TripActions, now Loom, and Teach for America before. I can't wait to talk about product, VP of product roles, and really your insights into those various industries. But before we start on all of that, I want to go all the way back to Georgetown. You're playing rugby, and how that has, hinted towards your life as VP of product.
I mean, I've been a big believer in team sports my entire childhood. So I played more soccer in my lifetime than rugby. And then I went to college and I just wanted to pick up something new, be part of a team sport. So I found myself on the rugby team my freshman year. But it was super fun. I still remember my first try. It was like I caught the ball and I just remember the coach be like, run, run, run. And I'm like, I'm running. Right? You have like no idea what you're doing, but you're like, I'm just gonna do my best. I'll be sprinting.
Now, we,
But
we don't have much rugby in Israel, but rugby is the sport where eventually just everybody's piling on top of each other over this, cone-shaped ball, right?
yeah. It's like
Okay.
it's huge in Australia and South Africa. Um, it's pretty popular in Europe as well. But anyways, so then after college, I really wanted to do something that mattered. And I just thought Teach for America would be a great place to contribute. I had
Mm,
had the joys of like a great public education system, and obviously went to a really strong private university for college. And I wanted to contribute and I wanted to do something with high levels of ownership and something that mattered. And
right.
so I was lucky to be selected to be part of Teach for America.
So what is Teach for America? What is the sort of impact you're trying to make on the public education space?
Yeah, sorry. That's a great question. I should have started there. So Teach for America is, it's been around for over 25 years now. It is a nonprofit that takes high performing leaders from quite a bit directly out of undergraduate university, but
Hmm.
some post college, and places them into high need school districts. So the public education system in the United States does have a teacher shortage and a teacher recruitment shortage. And so partners with high performing leaders, puts them through a distinct training, and
Hmm.
then you are placed in high need schools.
Hmm.
So
And
the
so what
bar.
was what were your various roles? Because you've done quite a few things within Teach for America, right? It's not like you came in and said, okay, I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to help others in one capacity, but you really branched out and did quite a few different things. And I'm especially curious for that because, looking from your journey from an outsider, you're saying, okay, you went to go study in sort of politics, government in Georgetown, then you go into Teach for America, and then you find yourself, going straight into high tech at full speed, both at really big companies like Uber, then to medium-sized companies like hypergrowth, like TripActions, and now to Loom, which is more of like a startup scene, right? So I'm really curious to hear about the journey and how you sort of paved this road.
Yeah, I mean, so a core belief of Teach for America is teaching is leadership, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that I didn't know at the time that like learning about teaching and working at Teach for America was preparing me in many ways for what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
But you learn, how do you get people excited to go after big goals? How do you break it down into medium goals? How do you build a culture? How do you keep going even when things get hard? And like the results aren't coming in and you need to change course. Like that is all, I mean, that is one of, those are some of the many things that product organizations do. And it's the same in a classroom. And so I think it was a really good foundation in terms of building ownership, taking tough blows. Teaching is so hard, and then continuing to keep going. And when I left Teach for America, I had joined the team in Dallas and had been working on developing proof point schools with like attracting school leaders and high caliber teachers and trying to work with the district to make proof point schools. But I just wanted to, I was really young and things were moving really fast career wise. And I just realized that I wanted to experience something different. I wanted to challenge my brain in different ways.
Right.
So applied for Uber, got into Uber, and then kind of navigated the company to get to what I was like ultimately more interested in, which was on the product side. And then from there, I joined TripActions. And the way that I found TripActions was I basically went through a process of like, okay, who are VCs I believe in? I have to understand the problem. Like, I want to be excited by the problem. Um, and then I met Ariel and Elon, and then it was kind of off to the races. Oh, and I had also looked for startups that had ex Uber executives.
Okay.
I, Uber is a mixed bag. 2014, 2015, 2016 Uber, there are like highs and lows from a culture standpoint, but I do think it was rigorous and bold and courageous. And there were, negative attributes as well. That coin is double-sided. But I like when I first joined there, we all believed in it so much, and I knew that I wanted to work at a company that belief was like fully there.
Right.
And so then I joined TripActions when we were 40 people. I had
Wow.
no idea that it would like scale. Um, and so yeah, I was the first product manager, and
Amazing. So first product manager, but actually pretty quickly then becoming head of product and then VP of product. And
yeah.
how many people were TripActions by the time that you left?
So when I joined, we were Series A, 40 people. When I left, we were 1,200, valued at 4 billion. My team went from just me to then running the design, or really building the design and product organization, to about 27, split between Palo Alto and Amsterdam. So it was a
Unbelievable.
wild ride.
Why
And
Amsterdam?
uh, that was more of an engineering driven decision. There had been another, well, no, Amsterdam, because from an operations standpoint, we had set up a support team.
Okay.
And then our CTO had flown out there and had, met with a startup that was very talented in the travel space. And so then he made the decision from an engineering perspective, we're going to hire there. There's also like a ton of tax incentives in Amsterdam. It's like Amsterdam and Dublin, very interesting for startups. Um, but anyway, so it was mostly like the operations team had set up, and then our CTO had gone out and had met like a team of pretty talented engineers, and so then it just became kind of a natural decision. Also, because TripActions is both a product and an operations company, there's
Right.
huge advantages for your tech team to be close with the support team, or like your operations team, your customer success team, your sales team. There's just a ton of empathy that's developed. So it was kind of a win all around, both from a product and engineering and a support
What
perspective.
what were some of the most both challenging and exhilarating things about moving from a, one person team really to now almost a 30-person team, but more importantly than that, being a part of the incubation of what will become a 1,200 person, $4 billion company, which I'm assuming is as one of the first, people working in product in the company, you've gotten to see really the vision and strategy unfold along the way as you made those transitions. So I'd love to sort of pick your brain and fast forward during these years, but really understand what are some of those insights that you gained throughout this time.
I mean, I think the first ones that come to mind, and since you didn't send me the questions ahead of time, I have to just go off the cuff. The first is like, as you begin to build a team, the the people you bring in are so exciting, right? I think about some of the product managers that I hired, that I mentored, that I learned from, and it's just so fun, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that is just like a very inspiring piece of a company growing. And then I think the second piece from a product perspective that I learned in spades at TripActions is like, you should always be responding to the market.
Right.
Like, if you want to be winning, and if you want to be a true partner to your customers, because TripActions and Loom are both B2B2C, like you
Yes.
need to be both over delivering and also have a pulse on how things are changing.
Right. So how do you then, as VP of product, have that pulse? How do you wake up every day? And by the way, one of the questions, so before we start, you asked me, how do you edit these videos? What software do you use? Right. I mean,
Right.
I guess that's part of the VP product mentality of constantly doing that market research. But what is your sort of engaged responsibility with the market? How do you tangibly go about executing on it every single day as you're aligning the strategy? And when Ariel and Elon are saying, okay, well, Anique, what is the next product we should build? Then how do you even go about thinking of that new and innovative vision?
That's a good question. I mean, I think part of it is being pretty diligent about always being in front of customers. So like
Right,
if I look at my week and I'm not like in the field at least twice, I'll like ping customer success and sales and be like, this
right.
is a lonely week. like
Yeah.
I need to get there.
And
And then I
but
think
what
that
does that mean, Anique? What does that mean to get in front of that customer? Is it literally you picking up the phone and calling customers? Is that going to meetups and
so
or
I
Zooms?
know I push in on customer calls and sales calls, and I also, if we're going to lose a deal, or
Huh.
if this was like if there's something at risk, I want to know from it, because one, it's my responsibility, but also because there's so much learning to happen.
But I still about this, jumping in, being responsible. They're still learning. That's part of both leadership, but it's also a part of you understanding that it's a process, and you have to learn from every experience. What from your insights, what are some of the most important things that a product manager can take with them as they're building out their product and strategy and growing in the ranks as regards to a company's product?
I'm I mean, I think the first is like curiosity, and like
Mm,
I think one of the mistakes that product managers that it's funny when I join as like a customer into product meetings that I see sometimes is product managers being defensive of their product, right? Because you're
interesting.
getting uncomfortable, right? You're like, oh, it's criticizing. And so that art of listening with and balancing being empathetic and being genuinely curious while also taking ownership and taking responsibility of the product that you've developed. I think it's a really, it's a balance that everyone's trying to constantly get better at.
Right.
Um, and there's definitely times where I hop off calls where I'm like, I didn't listen enough, or I should have asked more open-ended questions than I did. Um, but I
What
think
is the
that's
difference between open-ended versus closed-ended questions from a product management perspective? So let's say that I'm now, I'm the founder of an early stage company, and I'm trying to get my validation, or I'm trying to get some insight into whatever I'm building. What would be a key indicator whether I'm asking the right questions? Because I think that that's both something that I need to get better at, but I think that it's also something that I see quite frequently, that people don't ask enough open-ended questions when they're doing their research.
it's like asking, do you use X tool versus tell me about how you edit your videos, right? You're gonna get so much more information. You're gonna learn about their workflow,
Mm,
what their tech stack is, um, and you want to know all of that information. You want to like be consistently learning about it,
right,
um, because that will inspire future decisions, right? I think building that gut and that instinct is so important. And we've talked a lot about customer calls, but it's also like one of my like strongest product managers on my current team is like, we should just be using different video services every week. Just like constantly be like just building our gut, because I don't think you can be curious enough.
right,
Um, and also like what are other products that you're using daily or that other people are using, and what makes you love them? Can you be conscious of that? When I was
right.
signing onto your like we're using riverside.fm, there was I clicked a button and there was like great user feedback, so I took a picture and screenshotted it and sent it to PM. So that's why it took me a second to get on, right? It's like, can you constantly be building that instinct of what makes great product?
Right.
um, because different people are really strong at different things. So it's like, what's going on in the actual market, right? Like the investor market, competitors, what's going on with your customers, your sales, your support team. Like make sure you're getting in there, and you actually should be on the calls. And then the third piece is just like learning from different types of products.
No, 100%. And I think, by the way, one of the things that I enjoy most about these open-ended questions, even more than the quantity of information, it's the surprise element that when I hear something that I didn't expect or that I thought that wasn't going to come out of their mouth, and all of a sudden it opens up a whole new world to me. That if I ask them a more of a closed-ended question, I'm sort of bringing my preconceived notions into the answer, and it becomes almost a rhetorical question where I'm guiding them towards a specific response, or at least I'm barricading them to some vertical that they have to, that they have to reside in. Whereas at the open-ended, I find that really I'm getting a breadth of different worldviews and things that I really didn't expect. But Anique, I want to make sure that we have also enough time to talk about what you're doing now, because I think that, yeah,
Oh,
go
and
ahead.
I realized I didn't answer your original question because I got too excited about the curiosity. To me, it's like in terms of great product management, I think it comes down to like curiosity, leadership, and execution. I think that you need all three of those things. If you have execution without leadership, then the team's not going to be happy. You're only going to execute once. But those are the three to me.
And obviously, if you have curiosity but you don't have the execution, then you're going to write some great Confluence papers, but you're not going to end up building a product people love. But Anique, today you're working as VP of product, and one of the startups that I enjoy most, mainly because I use it probably 50 or 60 times a day with pretty much everything that I do, which is Loom. Loom has developed quite a bit since I began using it, and I've been really, really enjoying the product. So when you talk to me about this customer delight and the feedbacks that also the user is getting and you're getting, I can really see that in the product that you're building there. So as the VP of product, tell me a little bit about what Loom is and what are some of your thoughts behind building now a product. I'm pretty sure on a smaller scale now than with Uber and TripActions, right? But now you're seeing that fast growth as VP of product.
Yep. So Loom is a video messaging product that essentially allows you to instantly create a video message and get a link generated and share it to other people. And the reason why I joined is I had a tremendously difficult time giving design feedback to the team in Amsterdam when I worked at TripActions.
Mm,
I would sometimes sound like overly harsh over Slack. And with time zones, you'd have like 2 hours to work. And so
yes.
Loom enabled me just to create very quick like feedback loops.
Yes.
And like the intent and the effectiveness and the efficiency of Loom was like just a magical experience. And I think ultimately, like, and then if you ask yourself a few questions as to like, why is it so effective? Why is it so efficient? Right? The purest, like, the original form of communication was storytelling, right? What are we doing right now? We're just telling stories back and forth. Loom is an incredible like product to put that kind of storytelling, that human voice, that efficiency, that effectiveness, like in the forefront of how you work, especially in a distributed work setting, which I think like we all currently are in, and in the future will be in a totally different way. So it's a little bit about Loom.
And a little bit about what your role as VP product is it exactly the same responsibilities you've had in TripActions, for example? What are some key differences between, that a VP product might have in one company versus the other? Because obviously the title is the same, but I imagine that the scope of responsibility is pretty different amongst different organizations.
I think the responsibility between TripActions and Loom feels pretty similar. The major difference is design sits outside, like we have a design leader that runs the
Mm-hmm.
design organization. But I think ultimately, the responsibility is, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Is it the right thing?
Right.
Like, what do we ultimately believe is our responsibility to our customers, right? Like, what do our end users actually want? Are we making it better? Are we building a platform that will stand up? What is right? What is that? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? How does it connect to our vision? And then it's ultimately like, are we delivering it? And are we delivering it by like when we said we were going to, at the quality we said we were? And then how can you build an organization and a team that is constantly learning and constantly improving, so we just get better and better at this dance?
Right. And so you joined Loom in August of 2020, pretty much at some peak of the pandemic. There were so many peaks that, every day was almost a peak of
I think it
some
made so
degree.
many people in the US.
And so so you joined Loom, remote collaboration, becoming, diving deep into this relatively new industry that is very different from your previous industries. And so what are some of your thoughts behind, the remote collaboration, the things that you're observing within Loom that you've gotten to know over the past, I guess, 4 or 5 months or so?
So I do think there are some similarities between TripActions and Loom in the sense that they're both B2B2C, right? So
Okay.
your buyer may be a company, but ultimately both products rely on your end user loving it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so and that's like kind of connected to those Uber roots. And so
Sure.
being very connected to the consumer is really important. Um, but I think, when I joined Loom, I was really excited about the effectiveness and the efficiency and
Sure.
how like Loom can just help people connect, especially like global workforces. I think as I've gotten to know the product and understand Joe and Vinay's fuller vision and experience the product myself, it's incredible how much the Loom product has the potential to like really elevate the culture of a distributed workforce
I
because
completely agree.
in that cultural aspect and what it can contribute, it and it makes your culture like more effective and more efficient, but it also makes the culture like more rich, more human, more lively. um, and I think until I started using Loom in the way that I do and starting to talk to customers that are using it in that manner, um, it's just an incredible, like the potential of Loom is just so huge.
And I have to say, Nick, that I have to testify to this myself. I have quite a few people that I work with across the seas in various countries. A lot of them are dependent on my feedback on a daily basis, every few hours. And the difference between moving from a Slack feedback or a WhatsApp feedback to now me recording a 15, 20-second snippet of me
Yeah.
demonstrating on the screen my feedback with my bubble showing there and me smiling and talking, or even just, being casual, it changes the whole relationship. It changes the dynamic. And I'm seeing it just boost the productivity on all fronts. And I think, and again, I love what you guys are doing. So thank you for really making my work better and more collaborative. And for many of my friends and colleagues, I know that a lot of people that are using it. I don't want to take up much more of your time because I know that you're already running late to your next thing. But I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. My last question, which is my favorite one, is 3 words that you use to describe yourself.
I think my three would probably be gritty, loyal, and adventurous.
I love it. Anique, thank you very, very much. This was wonderful. And stay safe and stay healthy.
So nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Thank you.